Hello, everyone. We are going to be doing our So Magic class today on getting a great Oracle divination based reading. So we're going to set it up in the way that I'm going to take you directly into the teaching, which is how to set up for it and how to run it. And then I'm going to take any questions that may arise. So if you know that you already have some questions that are going on for you, for those of you that are live, or say you have to leave before an hour is over, please make sure you go over to the chat box and write down the questions that you have, and I'll make sure that I answer them. And this kind of reading can correlate to tarot, oracle, oghams, runes, like whatever you're interested in. I'm going to touch on a few of those different things while I'm teaching. But if you know that you're like, what does this mean? What do I do if I get this? Please do me a favor and go to the chat box and put those in there, and I'll make sure that I get them answered. Now, I've been teaching this kind of divination for a pretty long time, so I'm pretty good about thinking in general about some of the general questions that people have. But this is your opportunity to ask like specific questions, and they may have to be ones that come like from listening to me talk and then realizing like, oh wait, I have a question about that. But if you know that you have some, please do me a favor and let me know. The second thing I'm going to let you know is that there's a little bit of wonkiness with this class because I'm going to switch camera at some point so that you can see my cards and get a better like visual. And so during those periods of time, just bear with me. They might not be the most aesthetically pleasing, but you'll get to see what I'm doing. So that'll be great. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. When it comes to anything that has to do with divination, in my opinion, well, it's not just divination, it's embodiment and somatics. Embodiment and somatics, what we call the root up therapies, somatic work, body-based work, embodiment work, is that what we're trying to do is not cause more problems. We're trying to not cause more anxiety and more stress. And at the end of the day, what I'm trying to teach everything is sovereignty, to embody your sovereignty, to get to a place where you can trust yourself. So I want to start off with saying, anytime that you're going to do a reading, you want to kind of do a little bit of like a top like star chakra scan from like up here in the channel area, like over the crown, like where am I at, over the third eye, especially the Ajna or brow chakra, over the throat, the Vishuddha, over the heart, and then over the solar plexus, Manipura, and then over the belly button, which is that sacral chakra, the Svadhisthana. And then all the way like over where the pubic bone is, and that's the Muladhara, that's the root chakra. And you want to get a sense of where you're at in your body. I tell people all the time, do not go, especially to tarot, if you're already anxious about something. If you're already anxious about something, my first suggestion is to get out your journal and write about it. Like, what are you anxious about? And just kind of like free scrawl what you're feeling. And then from the free scrawling, you go back with a different color pen or marker, maybe like a red Sharpie or a red colored pencil. And you look for similarities in what you're saying. You could be like, I feel insecure. I feel like I'm not going to have enough money to survive. I feel like this person's never going to love me. Whatever it is, it's almost always rooted in fear and a lack of something because we're humans, and that makes sense. But what we want to get a sense of is like, what is it? Because it is from that body scan that we move into wise divination, right? Because like the divination really needs to start with self. Because at the end of the day, everything I teach you guys, everything, every single thing I teach you, all the methods I teach you have one desired outcome. And I'm trying to get there in a multitude of ways. And that is that you trust yourself, that you trust your intuition. And not only do you trust your intuition, but you're kind to yourself in the process. Okay. As a person that is also a recovering people pleaser and perfectionist and workaholic, I will tell you that everything that I teach you guys, I'm doing for myself. I either have done, currently am doing, or I'm working on it right alongside you. That is just authentic feminine leadership. It just is. Okay, I've not mastered life. I'm teaching you the tools that have helped me get a grip, and get some footing. So I just want to kind of like set the stage for that. Once you have journaled out like where you're at, once you have scanned where you're at, it's important that you write these things down so that you can kind of like reflect back on that. And that's going to be one of the first things that we talk about once we get into like the actual structure of how to do these readings. I'm just going over a little bit of like the ground rules. When you realize I'm too anxious, you need to actually walk away from your divination and go find something else to do. Go for a walk. My number one suggestion is a 21-minute walk. If you have a watch, my Apple Watch is like my most important device. I set a timer for 11 minutes. I walk in one direction. When it goes off, I just walk back. 21 minutes is all it takes of bilateral movement to reset the central nervous system. Super simple. If you're like, no, I'm anxious, but I'm ready. Like the anxiety is not going away. I've done all the things and now I need to sit down. Cool. I love that for you. Here's my suggestion. Please do not pull future placement cards. Don't worry about the future. Worry about right now. If you're going to talk about the future, put it in action statements, not something like, will this person and I get married? Like, first of all, when you're that like up there, the future is always changeable. It's always changeable. So you really want to like bring your awareness to yourself. I tend to think about tarot and oracle as like the best mirror for the subconscious and the most efficient form of accountability that there probably is. But that doesn't mean we're always ready to hear it. Okay. And also the future is changeable. Right. So that's like one of the things. If you know that you're like, I need to sit down and I need to do this reading, keep it focused on solutions. All right. Keep it focused on action steps, solutions, self-care, next steps. Keep it simple until you come out of the anxiety. All right. Okay. Hopefully that makes sense. So in saying all of that, let's go ahead and get into the structure of how to do a good reading. So first things first, you want to make sure you've got all the tools that you need to be with it. Let's talk about what some of those are. Number one, you want to have a space where preferably you can close the door and have some alone time. That may not always happen. I did not used to have this magical office. It was a large part of my own vision board. It was not always like this. So I totally understand. There's many times I would do huge spreads and they would just like literally sit on my desk for like a whole week. And I would pray that my kids wouldn't touch it. Like pro tip, take a picture of your spread, right? Like when it's really big, take a picture of your spread. So you want to find a place where you can leave it if you need to. Like if you've got a desk, you can just set it there and you can just leave it. Because sometimes these readings are not ready to be processed in the moment. Sometimes you just need to pull the cards and walk away, and that's okay. The next thing is that you want to have some of your elements present. You want to definitely smoke clear your space. So using something like sage or cedar or Palo Santo or rosemary, and you want to smoke clear your space in a counterclockwise direction. All right, this is the resetting of the space. And then you want to light your candle and have your stone that you're working with for the season present. The other things that are really important, like I say this all the time, and that is your journal, your tarot journal is as important as your cards or your divination method. They go hand in hand. And the reason for that is because in this school and everything I'm teaching you, we're not just trying to learn magic for like magic's sake. We're trying to learn how to live in sync and to get sense of like, what are the cycles of our lives so that we can choose new narratives consciously. So you'll hear me say something like, what was going on for you on XYZ date? This is where you'd want to be able to go back to your journal and be like, here's the date, here's what was going on. Here's a tarot spread that I was doing at this time, and I was questioning XYZ. But you want to be able to look back at a date, and you want to always know what your prompt was. So what I always tell people is, when you're doing your tarot, it is equally important for you to have your journal with your divination method, and to date it, and to put, even if it's just like literally a tiny scrawl, which is like, slept like shit last night, like, and just put the date on it. That's it. That's all you have to do, because what it does is it allows us to track patterns. It allows us to look back and look for what was going on at this time for you. Especially right now, like you're going to hear me say it all the time once we get later into this part of the month and August, when I'm like, what was going on during these days, which was the shadow period of Venus retrograde. We're in the shadow of Venus retrograde right now. So all the things that are coming up during this class, I know this recording will be here forever. I'm just using it for an example, but in this particular class, it's to be able to look back at what was going on for me 3 weeks ago, because that was a little bit of a foreshadowing of what needs to be worked out in Venus retrograde, right? Same thing for like eclipse season. You may do an epic tarot reading during eclipse season, and then 6 months later, when the first ticking of the box of eclipse energy comes through, I'm like, well, what was going on? What was the theme? You can go back, you can look at that epic reading and be like, this is what was going on, and here's where we're at, and here's where it is in the process now. So astrology is not just, for trying to predict. It is particularly for our consciousness. And that is like the main vehicle that we use all of these tools for, is consciousness, so that we can choose in body to shape our lives the way that we want them to, versus the way we've been told we have to. Okay. And in order to do that, we have to have some systems in place. Okay. For all my Capricorns out there, you'll like that. You want systems in place that are relatively unchanging. It's like having a control to the experiment, because it allows the chaos, to come flooding through, and not every single part of the experiment has changed, right? So what you want to do is you want to have your journal, your divination method, your candle, your smoke clearing method, and then, like some tea, like get comfy. I am a neurodivergent person, so I have a pot of tea. I also have a bubbly water, and I've also got my emotional support water bottle, so like I've got 3 beverages. How many do you got? Let me know. It's like the sign of neurodivergency, in my opinion. But I have my things, and I just settle in. Once I smoke clear my space, once I get my divination method and my drinks, I just settle in, and I will, say a small prayer, and invite my guides in, like I'll invite my well-line ancestors. I'll invite in the elements. What that looks like for me is not like necessarily calling all the corners. Like, it's not like I'm standing and I'm like, I call upon you for this reading. Like, unless I've been some serious shit. Like, I've only done that a couple of times, and it was very effective. But usually I just sit and I bring my awareness to the direction of the north, and I ask them to come and to bring grounding discernment advice. And then I bring my awareness to the east and the air, and then I bring my awareness to the south, and then the west, and then my body, and then my galactic guides, and then my underworld guides. And I'm just like, please guide me, right? And that's it. And then I just start. Now, what does starting look like? Starting looks like defining, what is my question? This is one of the #1 things I tell people. Do not pull cards, especially if you're an anxious person, neurodivergent person. Let's just say that. Do not pull cards unless you have a question. There's nothing worse than pulling the Tower card and not knowing like what it corresponds to at all, or like the Death card. Like, just don't do that to yourself. Especially if you're working with tarot. Because tarot is different than some of these other methods, and I'll explain why here in a moment. But you want to get a sense of, what am I coming here today for? Now, one thing you're going to see is that, and for those of you that are in the private coaching, you'll have already gotten like your Oracle prompts. You'll see that in your Kajabi, but you will also have access to some of the Oracle prompts that I provide. And that is like every day you can, if you want, come and use one of these Oracle prompts. You could be like, what is the obstacle that's holding me back? What is the thing that I can't see that, causes me to keep choosing this self-sabotaging behavior? And Tarot's savage, okay? Tarot is savage. It will literally be like, it's you, obviously. Oracle cards, depending on the deck you use, will be like, you are overcoming things and you are magically dissolving these old ways. And Tarot will be like, it's you. So, like having some awareness about where you're at with like how heavy handed can you take the advice today is also like a nice thing to check in with yourself about. Right. So once you have your space set, once you are in body and ready, you've taken a deep breath and you've invited your guides and your guidance team to support you, and you decide what is your prompt going to be, then you're ready. Your next official step is to date. What day is it, right? So today is the 6th. So 7/6/23. Okay, and then I am going to, let's see, I'm going to ask, like what is the thing I cannot see that is still causing me to self-sabotage? All right, that's going to be the question for today. All right, now I tell people this all the time, and that is, I am at the place where more cards are better than one card. I don't like one cards very often. I just don't. I'm like, well, what does that mean? Tell me more about that, right? So my goal is always for people to get to a place where they can just go back and forth with their deck. And like literally it gives you an answer and you're like, all right, tell me more. What's under that? And then you're able to just like start communicating with your deck. That's where you get to a higher level of divination. And those are signs that you can start to get to a place where you're ready to read for other people. Okay. Like when you can go back and forth with your divination method and feel confident doing so, that's a good sign. All right. If you're still like, then first of all, you may not have found your right divination method. Number one. Okay. And number two, you might need more time. I didn't pull a single card for anybody until I was like 8 months into my tarot practice. Nobody. So, it takes some time to really get to know your guides, your guidance system, your intuition. And that's what these methods are so powerful for, is learning to trust yourself, learning to hear, what does your channel voice sound like? What does the voice of somebody else sound like? What parts of you are still afraid of this? What parts of you are not, right? And using your tarot oracle practice for yourself for at least 6 months is super wise. It's super wise. It doesn't mean you can't read for other people. But once you start reading for other people, you start tapping into other people's guides. And if you don't know who your guidance system is and how they're communicating to you, and you're already kind of confused about like spiritual communication, just be mindful of that. Like other people's guides can follow you around, so be aware of that. Now, in saying that, let's go ahead and get into some of the differences between cards. Okay. So in tarot, there's lots of different kinds of tarot, but there's two main ones I want to talk about. Now, this right here is called the Thoth deck. All right. It's created by Aleister Crowley, not a great person, but a very, very, very intelligent esoterics master and the creator of the Thoth deck. When people get to advanced tarot and they get to my apprenticeship level, this is what they learn. They learn Thoth. It is a very magical system. Like this deck is one of my absolute first decks. It's my second deck I ever had. It is without a doubt, when you see me get this deck out, like it's extremely accurate, and it has this ability to kind of like set your future in stone. Like it doesn't mean forever, like, but it can do that. This deck is scary levels of accurate. This right here, this is my Light Seers deck. This is my much nicer deck. Okay. This is like a give it to me nicely kind of deck. And this is based on the Rider-Waite deck. All right. So Thoth and Rider-Waite are different. They're similar. They still are all a part of tarot, but their energy is extremely different and their focuses are different. Okay. So the Thoth deck is rooted in Kabbalah, Hermeticism. It is, I mean, Thoth is like Mercury. It is very Egyptian based. It's very alchemical. There are no kings in this deck too, which is pretty cool. There are only queens and princesses and knights and pages, and sorry, princes are the pages. So like it's very strongly feminine in that way. The artistry is absolutely beautiful, and one of the other things that it does is it has, so like slightly different, this is the strength card, but it says lust. You can see the Kabbalah symbol, and then you can see the glyph for Leo. So these cards all have Kabbalah woven into them, as well as astrology. So if you're studying astrology, these are powerful to carry together because they work very closely together. And all of the tarot and all of the astrology work together because all of them are the same language, and that is the language of the esoteric arts. It's a language. Okay. So you want to decide, like, where am I at? Okay. Most days I will use this deck unless I'm really like, okay, it's time to bring out the big guns. When you see me bring it out, you'll be like, all right. Now I have a deck that I only use for myself. Okay. And it is Rider-Waite based. It is called Gaia, hold on, Dreams of Gaia Tarot. It's really beautiful. I don't read anybody else's cards with these, right? Like these are just my practice. Both of these decks I read for other people. So yes, I can smoke clear them, but they know that they're in service. Like these decks, they have their own consciousness. It may sound crazy to some people, but like they have their own personality. They have their own wills. These decks are extremely, extremely intelligent, and they know that they're in service, and they read not just for me, they read for everyone. Okay. So I have a deck that I only read for myself in. All right. Now let's talk about tarot briefly for a moment. So tarot is a deck of 78 cards, traditional tarot is, and they make up what is known as the Fool's Journey. So tarot is an archetypal journey that all humans go through. Okay. The interpretations of tarot are very based on the perspective and the lens of the reader. Whoever is reading it, it's very open to interpretation. The difference between tarot and say something like Oracle, I'll grab an Oracle deck. Okay. This one is called the Celtic Spirit Oracle, Ancient Wisdom from the Elementals. So this deck has, usually they're like 48 to 52 cards. Sometimes there'll be more. I think it's like 48 cards. This deck is all about whatever the artist wanted to make it about, whatever the system is that they wanted to make it about, right? So like they have these different things like step out, hidden, courage, camouflage. And then they have a book that has very specific meanings that the Oracle creator created for that card. There's not a lot of room for interpretation in Oracle. There is a lot of room for interpretation in tarot because there are so many different ways to read tarot. They're all different archetypes. They're all different perspectives. So tarot is significantly more open in regards to how you're going to interpret it and the sources that you can look at to help you interpret it. Okay. So far we have gone through Thoth, Rider-Waite Tarot, Oracle, and now we're going to move into Oghams. Okay. So in here, I have Oghams from Ireland. This is the alphabet language in Celtic divination methods. Well, it's one of them. I mean, they work a lot with omens and elements as well. But you can use one of these as your divination method and completely bypass tarot and oracle totally up to you. Okay. They're there. Now, what I will tend to do, because I don't know Ogham anywhere near as well as I know tarot, is I will pull an Ogham first. I'll read about it, write about it in my journal, and then I'll come back in and pull a couple of cards to clarify with tarot because I know it better, right? Like it's a system I know better. So these are Oghams, all right? These are a different form of divination. Okay. Now, these are runes. Okay. I have a couple different kinds. These are some resin ones that one of my friends made me for my birthday a few years ago. And then here's some labradorite ones. Okay. So similar, I know runes way better than I know Oghams at this point, because I've been working with runes for about 3 years now. I would say that runes are the divination method I know second best to tarot, right? Tarot is definitely the language I feel like I was meant to speak in regards to divination. But the Oghams, I really like them. They're just not, I'm just not as attached to them as I am the runes. So those are some different, pretty like typical forms of divination. There's also divination like throwing bones. You know, there's lots of different ways that people divine things, casting lots. And then the last but not least is elemental divination. So things like reading water, reading the clouds, reading omens, seeing signs from nature, right? Those are all things. And I talk about that a lot in my ancestral program. So you might want to consider that. But these are all just forms of divination that you can still utilize in the same setup way process and have your question and journal about it and all of those things. Okay. So hopefully that makes sense so far. Now, let's go back to our tarot reading for now, and then I'll show you how I bring in additional pieces and then start taking questions. So I don't see any questions yet. Oh, you guys also have 3 drinks? That's funny. Isn't it like a thing? I swear it's like a neuro thing. What are your questions, thoughts so far? Do me a favor and just ask something. Okay. While you're doing that, let me switch the camera so that you can see what I'm doing. Okay. All right. Now I apologize that the quality of this camera is not as good as my Apple camera. I'm working on getting a HD camera. All right, let me get you set up. Okay, so I've got my journal right. I've dated it. I've got my question. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to make my layout. All right. So this card right here, this will be my question right here. What is the thing? I drew the card. I've got the number. And then I'm going to do 2 clarifiers. Okay, 2, 3. Then I'm going to write 1 right here, and my card will go here, and I'll write its interpretation. Then my clarifier number 2 will go here, and my clarifier number 3 will go here. All right, now that's where we're going to start. And then I'm going to show you how to get the rest like moving. Oh, I see. I got some questions. Can you start with the one method and get clarifiers from the other decks or tools? Or do you want to usually start until it's answered? Great question, Abigail. No, I was actually just about to show you that. So oftentimes I'll start with tarot and then these two clarifiers, instead of pulling tarot, I will pull oracle cards right here. Now, if I'm creating like a spread, so say that these three all had unique questions, then I would pull obviously all three in tarot, and then I'd come back and I'd clarify with oracle. So hang tight, and I'm going to show you exactly what I'm going to do. Okay. Catherine, I wonder about the symbolism and what they mean, like pentacles, swords, etc. I wonder if they'd help me recall during readings. Catherine, that's a great question. And I have that in the tarot class. I don't know if you've watched it yet on Kajabi, but I go into, it's like a 2-hour class. I go into like extreme detail about them. Let me know if you have seen that so far. And if not, you know, let me know. But yes, I go into it, and I'll talk about them briefly for just a minute, because it is really helpful to get a sense of their suits and what they represent, because it definitely helps with memory for sure. Okay. So let's go ahead and start with what Abigail just asked. And that is like, all right, say we start with like our question, how do we build on top of it? I really want you guys to be able to do that like pretty efficiently. And I'm sorry, I've got a grounding mat, and this is the cord that goes to it. So forgive me. All right. So here's our question, right? Our question is, what is the thing I cannot see that is still causing me to self-sabotage? So the first thing I do is I knock 3 times and I state the name of who I'm reading for. 1, 2, 3. This reading is for Lauren Wild. This reading's for me. Okay. And then I shuffle a couple of times the deck and I say, what is the thing I still cannot see that is causing me to self-sabotage? What is the thing I still cannot see? Okay. The 6 of Pentacles reversed. All right. So that's the first card that popped out. Now I'm going to go ahead and say, can you clarify the 6 of Pentacles? Clarify the 6 of Pentacles, please. I need 2 cards. Clarify the 6 of Pentacles reverse, please. I talk to my deck out loud. Clarify the 6 of Pentacles reverse, please. How is this causing me to self-sabotage? Okay. Now, if I shuffle a couple of times like this, I call this the psychic shuffle, where they pop out. If I shuffle a couple times like this and it does not work, then I go to the casino shuffle. All right. And I'll ask the question, and I will say, I need 2 clarifying cards for the 6 of Pentacles reversed as to what is still causing me to self-sabotage. Can I get 3 shuffles? And then I will count them. Sometimes I'll hear something like 4, and I'm like, all right, 4 shuffles. Okay, shuffle 2. Okay. And last shuffle, please. Clarifying 6 of Pentacles reversed. Okay, I hold my deck and I'm like, is this my card? If I hear yes, then I flip it. Okay. Okay. All right. So here is my reading. All right. This is the center, and these are the clarifiers. So then my job is to sit and to start defining and writing out what this means. So I get my book. I look up the 6 of Pentacles. And I'm not going to go fully into my reading for this. I will later. But then I see right here, and my job is to go and look at the reverse because I pulled it. And so going over here and then writing down like what is going on, right? So then I need to write this down, and then I need to go to these 2 right here, and I need to write these 2 down as well, and make sure that I put what was there, like what was the name of the card? Was it reversed or not? All right. Then once I have these, I can come in and I can start to clarify more with like an oracle deck. All right. Give me just 1 second. There we go. Okay, so I've got my initial reading, and then I've got the Oracle deck, and I will say, for Lauren Wild, please clarify, why is the Six of Pentacles reversed here? Why is the Six of Pentacles reversed here? Why is the Six of Pentacles reversed? The question was, what is the thing I cannot see that is causing me to self-sabotage? Why is the Six of Pentacles here? Okay. All right. Now, I've got a reading. All right. So not only do I have tarot, I've got oracle here. Now, say that I'm like, none of this shit makes any sense. Okay. Like, give me more. What I can do is I can go back to my tarot deck, and then I can go back to my psychic shuffle, and I can say, all right, tell me more, right? Like, well, you know, what is this Ace of Pentacles about, right? So I can go to my tarot and say, what is this Ace of Pentacles about? What is the Ace of Pentacles about? I got 2, 3. I got 3 that just popped out. I can set those right there. And then I can say, all right, well, what are the Knight of Swords about? What's the Knight of Swords about? Is this mine? Okay, there we go. All right, so now I have a pretty intense reading. At the end of the day, I can also still bring in more divination methods, right? So I could be like, all right, well, give me a rune, spirits, please give me a rune to show me how to overcome this obstacle. A rune to show me how to overcome this obstacle, please, or the Six of Pentacles reversed. No. Is it in here? No. Here, no. Okay, it's up here somewhere. Okay, there we go. Now I have a rune that is all about how I overcome. My job is to record this reading. All right, so my job is to get out my thing, and here's like the initial reading, right? And then I go to the next page, and I add in, all right, overcome, and then I write the Dagas rune, right? So I just put this in here, and then I need to look this up too. All right, now all of these other cards, like She of the Woods, I need to write down what these are about as well. At the end, you can decide if you're going to synthesize the reading or not. And what I mean by that is like, come up with like, here's what this means for me kind of thing. All right. Knowing everything that we know now, what does this mean? And then you would, you know, write at the bottom, like, you know, overall interpretation. And then it would be like, blah, 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 blah. Okay. If there is anything that got me really good at this method, it was doing this every day. Every single day for a year, I did this level of a reading. Now, that does not mean that you need to do that. Like, if you want to be a professional reader, you may want to consider that. If you just want to understand yourself and you want to feel more empowered in your choices and connected to your intuition, your body, and your guidance team, then, you know, even doing this once a week, like follow the new moon, the first quarter, the full moon, and the last quarter. Like, if you just did one a week like this, that would be amazing. Like, that's even a lot too. Like, I do this for a living, so I'm dealing with tarot all the time. I would say I do a big reading for myself maybe once a month at this point. Now, I pull cards every morning of like, what should I focus on today? But I don't do big readings like Celtic crosses and stuff until usually like a full moon of like, you know, what is the thing that's being illuminated that I need to see? What needs to be celebrated? What needs to be released? What's coming into culmination? What's just getting started, right? So like, they're different kinds of questions. But if you're wanting to really get good at using these tools, you need to start using them every single day, okay? So if you have any more questions about particularly the method that I just showed you, please let me know in the chat box right now, and then I'm going to start to address the question about the suits, okay? And I'll come back. So when it comes to your suits, you want to think about it as same as the elements. Everything always, in the esoteric arts, it always boils down to basically the same language through a different tool. So you may want to write this down. The first element is fire. All right. So our first suit is fire, and the element that corresponds to it is the wands. Okay. So the wands are fire. Fire is insight. It is inspiration. It's spirit. It's creativity. It's action taking. But it is not form. Okay. You can't grab fire. You can't hold on to it. Okay. The next is air. And air, again, is something you cannot grab onto. Air is represented by swords. All right. So when you see like a bunch of swords out, we're talking about the mind. It's not real. It's all in the head. We're dealing with mind shit. Okay. So the air element, you want to think about the elements in astrology, and that is like Gemini, Libra, Aquarius. What do? They talk, they communicate, they think, they analyze, they, you know, want to process things, they want to connect. So when you think about the air signs and you think about the swords, when you're reading tarot, you want to think about the fact that this is air energy. This is communication. This is insight. This is thought. But again, it's not real. We can't grab a thought, right? So what happens is then we go from fire, which is the spark of inspiration, to air, which is the thought being formed. And then we move into water, which is a felt sense. Okay. And then from water, we move into pentacles, which is earth. So when we come to our water suit, we're talking about the cups. All right. So cups are about emotions, intuition, insight, compassion, the felt sense, ancestors, healing, love. They are emotions. All right. This is the first element we've gotten to that we can actually grab. It has multiple states, right? Literally, it can be liquid, it can be solid, it can be air. But it has tangibility, it has material, right? We can grab it. So it has more energy behind it, all right? In that sense that there's fluidity to it. So when we see the cups in a reading, we're talking about feelings. We're talking about, you know, a felt sense. We're talking about love. We're talking about healing. We're talking about compassion, and like on an intuitive and a sensing level, the cups rule the intuition, all right? And then last but not least in traditional tarot is the pentacles or the coins, and they represent the earth element. So that is like, you know, money is usually there. A job, you want to think about the earth signs, right? Taurus, Virgo, Capricorn. Talking about money, talking about practicality. We're talking about housing. We're talking about food. We're talking about surviving, right? We're talking about jobs. We're talking about something that's physically here. It's gone from the inspiration of the mind, the spark of creativity, to the thought, to the felt sense. It's now physically here. When we're looking at pentacles, we're dealing with something that's physically here. Usually it has to do with something like money or sharing or family, but it's here. All right. When we're dealing with the pentacles, it's something that's already in action. It's in motion. Okay. So when you think about the suits, like when you look at tarot, you want to see like, how many cups do I have here? Right? Cancer, Scorpio, Pisces. When you look at your spread and you see all swords, you're like, shit, this is all in my head. All right. Like when I see a bunch of fire, I'm like, all right, I'm inspired and I need to take action. When I see a bunch of pentacles, I'm like, all right, I think I'm pretty stuck. Like, this is about money and survival. This is about food, right? This is about my home. This is about my family. This is about things that are already here and they're moving, but they're not getting like the action that I want, right? So if I see a bunch of pentacles, especially like the two of pentacles, which is like, or the four of pentacles, which are like you're stuck, then I will ask like, how do I get unstuck? And I will say the two of pentacles is right here. I'll be like, why is the two of pentacles here? How do I get unstuck, right? Because you want to get to, and the chariot popped out. It's like, take action, move forward. You want to get to a place with your deck where you can just like kind of rift with it, you know, like you can literally just be like, well, why? You know, now here's what happens when you start doing sets like this. And I tell people this all the time, because people will be like, why do you have two tarot decks out? And here's what it looks like. The first deck is the deck that you use to set the spread, and then you use a second tarot deck to clarify. And the reason for that is because, say you had the two of pentacles and then your answer is the two of pentacles, well, then you just got double confirmed that you're stuck as shit and you need to make a decision to move forward, right? So it's like, when you get to the place where you are able to use all of these different spreads, you want to recognize that you need a way to record the reading. So for me, I know I channel best verbally. So I have a recorder on my phone, and I will record myself reading, and then I'll go back and listen to it, and then I'll write down the important notes in the cards, and I'll keep it. You don't have to be that precise, okay? You don't have to be as crazy as I am. This is what I do for a living. But what it does do is it allows me to have insight, true insight as to why I'm so damn stuck, okay? Like, sometimes I can't figure it out with my conscious mind. Most of the times I can't figure it out with my conscious mind. But let me tell you what tarot is, particularly tarot. All divination methods do this, but particularly tarot. It is a mirror to your subconscious. Okay, so what you have to understand is that if you're afraid of something and you're not super clear with your tarot cards, it's like, don't show me what I'm afraid of. Show me how to get through it, right? Like you have to be clear with it. You have to tell the tool what to do, right? Then you can reflect yourself back to you, right? Like you can, and I did that with tarot for like first 6 months. I literally just became so aware of my subconscious for like 6 months. All of my readings had like the Tower card, the Death card, the Devil card, because that's all the shit I was dealing with. I was so stuck. I was literally bound in a cult, right? So like, it took me so long to realize, you know, it's just mirroring back my fear. It wasn't until I got to a place where I was like, all right, well, how do I move beyond the fear? How do I integrate the fear? How do I heal? What's my way out? Like, the cards are so powerful for this. Now, in the beginning of my practice, I didn't fully trust myself to know exactly what all these things meant. I had my own teacher, right? Like, I'm your teacher now, but I had teachers and I still have teachers teaching me different things. But it became a practice. It became my sadhana to check in with myself. And it still is. Like, if I'm feeling anxious and I've done all the body things, I will go to my tarot, particularly my shadowy deck, and be like, why am I stuck? Like, what am I not seeing? How do I fix this? Right? Like, how do I actually name the real thing? This is a powerful tool because it names your subconscious. Okay. Now, sometimes the things that we're dealing with don't make sense because it's so subterranean. That's where parts work comes in. That's where path walking, shamanism, subconscious block removal, hypnotism, like some of the things, because what we're doing is we are trying to shine a light to make the subconscious conscious. We're trying to make something that we did not know exist in our minds. It's always been there. We just didn't know it. We just weren't conscious of it, right? So sometimes the things that we get don't make sense, and that's okay. That's why learning how to lean into things like shamanic journeys, imagery, art, I ask the question often, like, what is dreaming through you right now? Working with vision boards, stuff like that, like trying to let visuals start to come up. But what these tools do is they unlock your subconscious. They allow the things that were once very hidden and shrouded in darkness to start to come up into the light. The other thing that this does is it signals to your guides that you are open to support and you're looking for answers and messages. Okay. So it is a portal. All right. There is a reason why people that don't understand this stuff think that it's the devil, because it opens a doorway. It does. And you need to be smart about it. All right. It's not a fear-based thing. It's just our mind can play tricks on us. If there is anything that can play tricks on us, it is our minds. Our minds are our karma. Okay. Our bodies don't lie to us. Our hearts don't lie to us. The one thing that will lie to us is our mind. All right. So you want to recognize, you know, am I in a clear mind? Here's the next thing that I want you to know is, like, oftentimes when I have a very hard, difficult conversation or a thing that I'm stuck in, I can't read for myself because I want to see what I want to see so bad that I can't see it. So oftentimes I have to have somebody else read me. And I mean, that's what I'm here for you for, or like anybody that you trust to do your cards. But that is like something you have to understand, is that we all have things that we want. We all have things that we don't want to see. We have things that we can block. So when it becomes like something really big and scary and something that you know you want a certain outcome on, the smartest thing to do is to have somebody else pull and interpret your cards for you. Okay, somebody you trust. All right. Okay. When I first learned about tarot, fire and air were reversed, and it was explained that the wands are born from air and swords are forged in fire. Do you know why there's a difference? Does it matter which way you read them? No, I've read both ways. It's really about like preference. So yes, some people believe that air is before fire, and that some people believe that fire is before air. In the Thoth deck, it is fire and then air and then water and then earth. So again, like it really just depends on who you're working with, but it doesn't matter, particularly with air and fire, because both of them are intangible, right? They're both intangible. So you can go with whichever one feels better to you. Okay. Anybody else have any other questions? Thoughts? Feelings? Does it make you guys want to read your cards, or does it make you want to run away from them? Awesome. Good. I mean, I feel the same way. Like, and I'll tell you, one other thing I talk about a lot in my ancestral classes is that tarot is the one I know the best because it correlates to astrology so much. However, because I know it so well, sometimes I try to interpret in a certain way, and this is for myself, to kind of twist the rules. So I have found that I need to work with a divination method that keeps me in beginner's mind, where I follow the rule book. And that is what I've learned, is that through particularly the ancestral part of the month, or the wheel of the year, which for me is like autumn equinox to spring equinox, like that darker part of the year, I am absolutely like so much more drawn to runes and to ogams and to like my ancestral divination methods. Like my ancestors, that's what they use. They used runes and ogams. So like I'm much more drawn to that in the darker part of the year than I am the rest of the year. Tarot will always be like my baby, you know, like tarot is where I started. It was where I started, like all of it next to yoga. But runes are the things that I'm drawn to the most during the ancestral part of the year, which for me is like autumn equinox, especially until like Yule, like winter solstice. Those 3 months, I'm very interested in like water divination, smoke divination, like the signs from nature, you know, what my body is telling me, my runes, like bones, even stuff like that. I'm just significantly more drawn to slower forms of divination because they don't feel as like airy, you know, like the more I understand tarot, it's very linear. It's very like, here's the card, here's the problem, and here's the solution, right? And I have found during the dark part of the year, I don't really want so much the solution as much as I want a journey, and I want like to feel it. Like I want it to kind of like begin and like work its way through. And it's so interesting because, you know, when I first started learning tarot, I didn't realize how linear, and in a way it's kind of masculine. It's not really. It's divination, which is all feminine based. But out of the divination methods, it's very much like a specific way to be done, you know, whereas like water divination is completely up to what you see, right? Like there's just so many different ways to do divination. This is just a powerful system to start with to help you recognize like what is your gut reaction, right? And that's like one of the things that I'll leave you with tool wise. And that is, I tell people this all the time when they're learning oracle, divination, all of these things. It is not so much about what the cards say. It is about how they make you feel. So for example, I had this very strong awareness that like a couple of years ago that I really didn't want to lose somebody. And every time that I would see a card that could potentially mean that I was going to lose somebody, I would freak out. And what I finally was able to realize is like, I don't want to lose this person. This person is worth the fight for me. I don't want to lose this person. Right. And so you want to think about it like that. Like at the very least, like what is the truth of the matter here? It's not always about what the card says as much as what it brings up in you and the awareness that it brings up in you so that you can now choose how you want to live your life. What is the narrative you want to live within, right? So you want to think about it like that. It's not so much about what it says, it's what it brings up, right? Okay. Let me see what you guys say. I hadn't thought about sitting with the cards over a period of time. My brain is impatient, I guess. I'd like to try that though. Yeah. So here's the thing. You're in charge of your brain, right? So like, this is one of the things I talk about a lot in journey work. And that is, and it's all Kajabi again, just so you guys know. The conscious mind, which is the majority of what we use to analyze tarot, is the conscious mind. We only have 5 to 10% of our conscious mind. That's it. That's all we got access to. 5 to 10%. The rest is the subconscious mind. And the subconscious mind is all symbols, artistry, color, feeling, dreams. It's all abstract. Okay. So what we have to understand is that the feminine takes time. She can't just like be productive. That's the masculine, right? That like, it's that ego. It's like, I want an answer. I want a solution. I want to fix it. That's very masculine. And so you have to recognize like a lot of these tools require patience, trust, and surrender, which is like the backbone of feminine spirituality, which is like hard. I struggle with that too. You know, I'm like, no, tell me now. And so at the end of the day, sometimes what I'll find is that my cards will just tell me like, I'm not meant to tell you this. You're meant to trust. Like this is the journey, you know, like this is the journey. And I'll see that particularly when I get the moon card or like the hangman or the fool, where it's like, I'm not giving you an answer. Your job is to be in it. Like your job, your literal work here is to stop trying to fix yourself and just accept yourself and like be in this season of that, you know, and then you're just like, damn, you know, like you can't just like fix it. But that is where you start to really understand how your cards are communicating to you, how it feels in your body. And that's when you know you're getting to a more advanced part in your practice. Like when it feels like your cards drop knowledge on you and you're like, yeah, that makes sense. I guess you're not going to answer me, huh? Right. So just keep practicing. You'll see. Like, I don't know how else to explain it other than like you develop it and then you'll be like, oh, I hit that point. Yeah. Okay. Do you feel like they tie together pretty easily? I've avoided other methods until I feel comfortable with tarot, but now I'm curious to try. Oh, I absolutely think they all, I mean, all divination methods are all the same thing. We're trying to make sense of the subconscious. We're trying to make sense of magic, right? We're trying to make sense of a felt sense. So what I always tell people is like, trust the thing that allows you to feel confident, because that's really what we're looking for, is a tool that you can lean on to help you develop your intuition so that you can trust yourself, right? Like at the end of the day, I'll come back to what I said in the very beginning. It's not about the tarot. It's not about the oracle. It's not about the runes. These things, they have wills, they have consciousness, but you're the one controlling the tool. You got to control the tool. Okay. So if you recognize like, I'm not super confident in tarot, then radically accept that in this season. That's just going to be one you have to work on more. So like for me, I'm not super comfortable with the ogams. I'm still not super comfortable with the runes. That's part of their gift for me, is that they keep me in beginner's mind. They keep me in a place of like, I don't fucking know. I got to look in the book, you know, like, and that's okay. That's powerful in my practice. You may have an oracle deck that is your go-to. You're like, this is the one, right? The mystical shaman oracle deck is one of my ones that's like, this is the one. I go back to it every time. You may have one of those, and I encourage you to use that as the base of your reading, and then use other methods to clarify if you want to do that. But like, stick to the thing that allows you to feel like you have some sense of like a control to the intuition experiment. All right. Because what we're really trying to do is utilize these tools as tools until you become the tool, right? Like your intuition, your body, your felt sense is the tool. It is the clarifying device. Everything runs through you and your system. And that's how you develop that clear channel, right? But these are powerful ways to help us learn how to do that in the process of getting there. Does that make sense? Let me know. And then I'm stoked to work with water magic. Yes, I know, like your desk and everything, it makes me, yeah, absolutely. So for water magic, let me show you one thing before we go really quick. Okay, just so you guys know. So for water magic, here's a couple of things you can do. First things first, you need a dark bowl, all right? Like order a black bowl, or like if you're into ceramics or have a friend that does ceramics, order a black bowl, all right? It needs to be pretty wide. You need a black bowl. Then you can use, your base can be water mixed with mud, like dirt that you have, you can mix it up. Or you can use coffee, black coffee. Or you can just use like water, and you can add like black dye to the water. All right. You need dark water. Then you need a very light, like type of drop to go on the water. I use alcohol-based inks, and you can get one like silver or gold or white. Those are the ones that I typically use the most. Usually I use silver or gold. And then you want to ask your question, right? So you're peering over the bowl. You want to ask your question. You want to drop in the droppers, and then you want to have some sort of tool. It could be your finger, it could be a wand, it could be a spoon, but you need a way to swirl it. Okay. So you drop it in, you look at it, you swirl it a couple of times, you close your eyes, you breathe in, you open your eyes, and what do you see? It's the first thing you see. All right. You don't overthink it. You just say alligator. All right. And then it will keep swirling. You'll be like cloud. And then you'll be like grandmother's purse. And you'll be like, what the fuck? And then it goes away. And your job is to write down alligator, cloud, and grandmother's purse. And then walk away from it for a little while and ask your guides, or go through like a dream dictionary, or just think about like, what is grandma's purse? What do I think about with grandma's purse? Right. And like you go through a different form. Everything is like abstract. Everything is like felt sense and dream and memory, versus it being a tarot card that has a very like specific kind of outcome that almost gives like a prescriptive answer. Does that make sense? Like, can you feel the difference between that? Like now that I explain it like that? Let me know. Okay, good. All right. So I hope that this was helpful for you guys. I hope that this empowers you to want to get into your Kajabi's accounts and learn more. And then also to start your divination practice. Remembering that the strongest time of the year for divination work is going to be from Lunacid, which is August the 1st until February the 1st. All right. That is when the veil starts to thin. The veil thins on autumn equinox. So from autumn equinox, which is Libra season, until Yule, which is winter solstice, is when the veil is getting really, really thin. All right. That's the easiest to communicate with spirits. And then on Samhain, which is Halloween, October the 31st, until winter solstice, when the sun starts to return, we have a very short window of the strongest time of the year to do spirit communication. It is the easiest for us to get information from them. So start building your divination practice now, start honing your intuition now, so that by the time you get to that part of the year, you're ready to like make the most of it, because it only happens one time a year, right? And I will get information that happens during that time of the year that carries my work for the entirety of the year, every year. I don't even really try to figure out very much this time of the year. In the summer, I just want to have fun. I just want to enjoy pleasure. And because the skeletons of your past will come and get you in the dark months anyway, so you don't have to worry about it. But hopefully this was helpful for you guys. I will get the recording up here shortly, and it will all be stored in Kajabi. And I will see you guys next week. Okay, bye.